Greeting, organic beings. I am Megatron Chan.
I am Optimus Prime Chan.